Welcome back to the Dare to Dream podcast. My name is Vincent Van Patten,
And my name is Gregory Russell Benedict.
and this is a podcast to inspire you to embark on the adventure of your life. Greg, we got some exciting news this week. Well, the boys are back together. That's always exciting. But last week, I finished the first draft of my book about Europe. So
Let's
last
go.
summer, yes, last summer I went to live in Lisbon, Portugal, where I worked in a hostel for 2 months, and then I worked on a farm in southern Italy for 3 weeks. And for the past almost a year, I've been writing my second book about this tale. And being in Japan has brought its own difficulties with that, just having a day job and teaching English here, but got her done last week, finished the first draft, and we have a myriad of topics we want to talk about today. But the first kind of relates to this feeling that I had. So I was working on it a little bit on my break, the book, and just the first draft I finished, by the way, but it was a big accomplishment. I don't know if I said that already, but working on it out of work, and then on my way home, it's a Saturday night. I'm on the train. I'm surrounded by this motley crew of like a homeless guy on the other bench across me with like a huge duffel bag, a couple of kids like yelling, and I'm just like sitting there with my computer on my lap, type the final page, dot the final dot, cross the T, and this just feeling of like pride and accomplishment, just energy like soared through me. And it was a long day, like I was tired, but like I was just overwhelmed with disbelief that the fact that I did this thing. And there's so many days where, I questioned why I'm doing it, if I could do it. And it definitely was not like a clear cut like schedule where I was working on every day. It was pretty much get her done by any means necessary. And I could talk more about just like how I got it done maybe in a little bit. But the point is that that feeling of like being on that train and just being overwhelmed with a sense of I did this thing. Like I put my mind to it. And even though it was definitely not easy, like I did it. And it was more than just like accomplishment. It was like this joy that I created this tale of like such a memorable experience in my life. And I actually put that into a story that it was more than just like finishing the thing. It was every time I sat down to do it, it just, thinking about that experience, going back to it, it opened up my mind. It inspired me. It made life richer just to have this thing to work on every week that brought me so much joy. And I don't know if you have anything to say about that, but I'll read the quote next.
First of all, I just want to say congratulations. That is a huge accomplishment. Not one book, but two books, folks. The second is on the way.
On the way. Thanks, brother. Thank you. Yeah, so it we're both reading this book, Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. You are a huge fan of Eat, Pray, Love. I've
It's
not
one
read
of
it
my favorite
myself.
books. One of my favorite books. I'm not gonna lie. I'm actually being serious on this. It is fantastic. And if you
It
don't like
is,
it, I don't like you.
he is serious. I've actually never even seen the movie either, but it's on my list. So you told me to read this book, Big Magic, and I'm not reading a ton of self-help books these days, you know, just not my cup of tea, but I'm always down for another book on like creativity and just another pop of inspiration. This book is definitely providing that. So a line that I took away that I really liked, which is quote, you can live a long life making and doing really cool things the entire time. You might earn a living with your pursuits, or you might not, but you can recognize that this is not really the point. And at the end of your days, you could thank creativity for having blessed you with a charmed, interesting, passionate experience. This totally related to just that feeling that I had of like, you know, I didn't I didn't quit my day job because I wrote Arrows of Youth, and I'm not gonna do it with the second book. I have no idea what's gonna happen. The point of the matter, the reason you must dare to dream, the reason you must embark and start that thing to take that first step with whatever it is that is rattling around in your brain is because it will change the way you see the world and the life you live every day. They'll make your experience richer, more meaningful, more passionate. And if I, you know, if that's the only thing that my life is changed by in the end, by pursuing these things and daring to dream, then I will be happy when it's all said and done, I think.
It's a good life. And what I took away from this book is that the reason we make things is to make things. You don't make something with this big, heavy expectation that it's going to be a bestseller or it's going to be this famous painting. Creativity and the act of creating something from an idea in your mind into the world, whether it's through your hands, it's probably always through your hands, like typing or painting or writing, like all the things. That process of taking something from idea to physical, tangible in the world, like that in and of itself is enough. You don't need
Mhm.
to attach all this pressure to the outcome. That was my biggest takeaway. I love how she views life, how she views creativity. It's kind
Mhm.
of this optimistic nihilism where nothing really matters. We've talked about this in other episodes. Nothing really matters. And that means that you get to create meaning in your life. You get to decide what matters to you specifically, not what other people care about, not what your parents care about, but what you care about. And then
Mhm.
focus on those things and go have fun and play and create.
Yes. And I also took it as like it's not just creating, like not everyone is gonna be an artist where they're creating with their hands, or it's something that I think it's just anything that has to do with fear on the other side. Like if fear is holding you back from this thing because you expect an outcome or you expect that it has to go a certain way, that is the thing that you must do. Like it's running a marathon, not to achieve the best time, but to live an enriched experience of training every day and getting out there at 4 in the morning in the rain. And like that is what changes your life. And that is what makes you become a different person. It's the act of doing the thing, not the end, that makes life worth living.
And you never know what the end is or where the end is. It's just one thing at a time. You try this, you get introduced to this person, they open this door, you go on this wild adventure, and you never really know where you're headed with it. And this phrase we keep throwing about because we love it is live a story worth telling. And I know both of us are of the belief that you must live a story worth telling.
Mhm.
And the reason is we're all storytellers. We are constantly telling ourselves stories every single day, whether we like it or not. It's the internal chatter. Why not live a story worth telling, not to other people, but to yourself? So that when you get to the end of your life and you look back at what you've done, what you've accomplished, the experiences you've had, the impact you've had on other people's lives, that it's a story that you personally would like to replay in your mind, because that's what's going to happen when you're old and you're reminiscing on everything.
Mhm. Definitely, definitely. And it's not even like I think Daring to Dream, that's why it still makes me happy that we chose this name because it encapsulates so much. It's not just creating with your hands, it's not just running a marathon. It's literally anything that, well, I'll leave it to Matthew McConaughey to sum it up for us. So my mom sent me a pretty funny reel, and I don't have the heart to tell her I don't watch many reels that she sends me, but she's listening to this. But this one looked good, so I checked it out. And it's Matthew McConaughey. He's sitting there like on a dock. He's like, my son is about to go to camp. And I asked, son, what do you hope to get out of camp? And he looked at me and said, Daddy, I just want to meet new people, cool dude, and do cool things. He's like, damn, son, that is the best reason to do anything in life. Meet new people and do cool things. He just goes off on this like tangent. And it is so true. Like with anything that we do, like so I've been thinking a lot. Just I started the next contract for teaching English in Japan. So I'm here for another year at least. But I know like it's already been almost 8 months. I know that time this year is gonna go quick. Like it's gonna be a lot of things happening. And life always goes pretty quick. And so I'm already thinking like, damn, like I know I I'm certain like I cannot work a desk job. Like I think it's playing a part in like a big part in my back and just like I can't do it. I'm not made for it. And I'm like, so what am I gonna do? And I'm just thinking like take the pressure off. If I just have experience after experience, something's gonna land eventually. And why not just keep trying to meet new people and do cool things? Keep getting out there, keep daring to dream. And that's why Dare to Dream is so like impactful and why it can mean anything. If you're just getting out there, if you're trying, that is Dare to Dream. Doesn't mean you have to be painting like Michelangelo. It means that you're not settling, especially at our age, which I think takes us to the next point.
Two things is that you can live an artistic life without ever creating art. I think it's the way you go about life that can be artistic and playful and creative. You don't necessarily need to make something in the real world. It's just how you engage with it.
Yes,
And the other thing that
100%.
comes up is one of the quotes that I really want to talk about. And it's this quote that if you're succeeding in a job you hate, imagine how good you'd be at a job that you loved. It's this tension between finding something that is going to pay the bills. You got to be realistic. I hate that word.
Yeah.
And also, we all have this dream inside of us. And I love that we call it Dare to Dream because everyone has a dream. I guarantee it. Whether they admit it to themselves or not, you had a dream at one point in your life. Maybe it's been buried down and covered with stuff for years and years. But we all have that dream, and we need to dare to actually bring that up, to put it on the table, to show it to other people, to say, this is what I want with my life. And this whole piece of you can succeed at a job you hate, but imagine how good you'd be if you were at a job you loved.
Mhm.
Now is the time, like, especially for us. We're in our late 20s now, mid to late 20s. And this is the perfect time to take risk, to try a bunch of things, to figure out what it is that you really want. And we talk about this all the time. And today I wanted to bring a little bit of the personal side to it and like actually
Concrete,
concrete details of how this is showing up in our
concrete
life.
facts.
We're going to get down to it. So, and I have some trepidation sharing this just because it's personal, but I made $10,000 from coaching in January. I was super excited. It's the most I've ever made from coaching. It was more money than I made at my last job working in finance. And that has been a goal I've been working towards for 2.5, almost 3 years. That happened in January. A couple days later in February, I spend $10,000 on coaching. So I immediately take all that money I had, I plow it back into myself, investing in the business. And I'm back to redlining. I'm back to barely squeaking by because that is where I want to be at this stage in my life. Like, obviously, it'd be nice to make tons and tons of money and be comfortable, but that isn't how I'm going to develop as a coach. That's not how I'm going to develop as a person. I have to be willing to take those risks. And I can't imagine taking that risk if I had a family, if I had kids, if I had a mortgage, if I had all of these obligations. So I'm so thankful that I'm doing this now so that when I'm 45, when I'm 55, when I'm 65, I've
105.
spent the years figuring out what it is that I wanted to do with my life. I found that job that I love so that I'm not only imagining how good I am at that job, I'm actually realizing it and seeing it. And I've been doing it for years and years and years.
Mhm. So epic, man. I'm doing a slow clap over here. If you can't, if you're only listening, that is awesome. Both sharing big wins today. And yes, a couple things I want to share about that. The first, I think, is what I'm learning from teaching English in Japan. It's not, I don't want to do this forever. Probably don't even want to do it for over another year. So it'll be like a year and 8 months in total. But there's a lot, like, this is the time of life. I think it's like in Mastery or by Robert Greene or something that, or maybe just Defining Decade, where you're not necessarily, I mean, unless you're killing it at a job you do like and you're making money, or you just like making money. Nothing necessarily wrong with that at all. But this is the time to be acquiring like life skills and experiences and trying. That's why Dare to Dream thing, going back to that, it just means trying. And I'm not necessarily like, I don't go to work every day fired up that this is my job. I go because it has given me a life experience. And even at the job you hate, like I'm still doing my best. Obviously, I have my off days, but doing my best to give it everything I have. So like what with whatever experience you're in, treat it, do as good as you possibly can. Like even if it's you're a checkout cashier, you know, give it everything you got. Be the one who people love getting checked out by. Like with this teaching job, I just do my best, try to make people want to be there, try to make people smile. I try to make, get to know the students, and like it has been life changing because if I was just sitting in the back, there's so many like jaded teachers that you've been here for like 15 years and I don't know how, but there's they like just don't really care anymore. They sit in the back and like they won't do the little annoying stuff that even annoys me, but like this is like I'm no better than anybody else. I could be like, why not me be sitting at the front like packing tissues to like go hand out on the the crosswalk. That's what I'm doing. And like on multiple occasions I've had like people have been, I've had conversations just by sitting there with like prospective students, or I've like smiled at a little kid and like that's the reason the parents like decided to join the school. Like you just don't know the impact that you could have from doing your best at a job that even you might not love or might not even like. The second thing is there's this uh as we go further in life, in theory, you're supposed to keep making more and more money. Like if stay at a job, you're probably going to be making more money. Just with age, you'll probably be making more. Yet it is you lose time. So wealth goes up, but time and health in theory and obligations. Well, sorry, obligations go up, time and health in theory go down. So, well, time does, but you get what I'm saying. That like you will be making more money. And that is not necessarily the point at a young age. You don't have time to think about these things later in life when things inevitably start to accrue that kind of start weighing you down. So, like, even if you don't know what it is, you just have to be trying things and giving your best when you don't like it, but just continuing.
What comes up for me is the way that you build real wealth, wealth that doesn't make you have a midlife crisis, doesn't make you want to kill yourself when you're 55, is finding the thing that you love to do that for you feels like play, for other people it feels like work, and doing that over and over again. You don't necessarily make more money just because you get older. You make more money
Right.
because you work at the craft,
Yeah,
you
it doesn't
hone
just
it.
it just happen where money just increases. Yeah, that brings up, sorry to interrupt.
Come on
I
in.
think further on that. So another Alex Hormozy quote from Modern Wisdom. Alex Hormozy, Greg, you probably know more about him than me, but huge entrepreneur, does like makes businesses bigger. I don't know, just very inspiring guy. But he says success comes down to doing the obvious thing for an extraordinary period of time without convincing yourself that you're smarter than you are. And just a takeaway lesson for me is that like with medium, with writing, with this creative life, the obvious thing for me is writing. If that's if nothing else, like if I continue to write, I have a sincere faith that doors will open that I can't possibly imagine. It's not that you know, I've said so many times I get to where I'm meant to go. It's like we're already where we're meant to go, but I think doors will just continue to open that you can't possibly foresee if you continue at the thing. And there's been so many times, obviously, when I've wanted to, I question, why am I still doing this? Does it even like is I don't really, well, here's the thing. I don't really care anymore. Like with writing online, everybody's putting out the perspectives like this is what you need to do to make it as a content creator and stuff. I'm just like, I don't give a shit. Like if I do make it as a content creator, great. But it's because I have continued just to do the thing, which is writing. Because it's kind of pessimistic view of it, but nobody's really trying to help other people by saying this is the 7 things you have to do to make money online. They're trying to get more claps on that article because people will be enticed to read it. That's my theory. So like you just got to do the thing that you know is the most important thing and just continue to do it. Not because you'll get to some endpoint, but because like me, the writing, the story itself is the joy. I write because brings me pleasure and meaning to actually write the article, like not thinking about how it's going to be received or hopefully thinking that'll like help people. That's the purpose of it, but not that even it's going to be successful.
Yeah, and I love Alex Hermosi's take on a lot of things because he's really honest about it. That even if you love something, there are going to be times where you want to quit, where you're questioning, why am I doing this? And he has this really powerful quote where he says, "This is what hard feels like. This is where most people stop, and this is why most people don't win. It's because they give up at that point." And that little phrase, "This is what hard feels like," is such a helpful reminder to shift your perspective, to almost give yourself permission that, yeah, this is hard. Like I was editing one of our past episodes last night and I was like, I really don't want to do this. Like, this is not super fun. This is what hard feels like. And if you expect it to be hard or you let it be hard, it's so much easier. You're just like, yep, this is what hard feels like. And he always asks the question, and like if someone, for example, let's use a real example. That guy didn't like my mustache and he
Mm,
left a hate comment. And
yeah,
whenever something bad happens, just and like, is it going to stop me? Nope. It's so powerful to almost give yourself permission to just be with that hard moment and recognize that if this is truly what you want, it's going to be part of the journey.
100%. Yeah, you said something before that, like, at those points where I want to stop and I ask myself, why am I doing this in the first place? This is the point where most people quit. And this is why people succeed because they keep going. They hit that bottom part and they say, and, right? I've had so many times where, why am I doing this? Like writing the first draft of the book, it wasn't, I didn't do it like 20 minutes every day that had to be done. I tried, but there were been a ton of days where I'm like, I just can't do it today. Like I am literally my entire day is like just filled. But that doesn't mean I haven't stopped. The next day I'm like, okay, I have 20 minutes, I'm gonna try. I'm just gonna keep going. And the only thing that matters is you keep going with it. And in that time, it brought me so much joy to like revisit it. And it was hard, definitely. And this is just the first draft. Like book is by no means done, but getting the clay on the old spinner's wheel was a huge accomplishment. And yeah, it is like I like what you're saying about and what he says about giving yourself the permission for it to suck. Like things that are worth achieving and pursuing in life are not easy. I'm, Greg obviously knows this much more than anybody else, but the time in Japan hasn't been all Shinto shrines and daisies. It has been, a lot of difficult moments and difficult seasons and feeling lonely, just questioning why the hell I'm doing it in the first place. What am I going to do next? That's, questioning everything. And it's pretty difficult right now too. But doing these things, doing this is bringing me out of a slump itself. Like doing the things that light you up in and of themselves are often the most difficult things, but often give you the most meaning and joy.
No one ever said it was going to be easy.
No one ever says it's gonna be easy.
That's I want to tell the story that Alex Hermosi tells on the podcast, the Chris Williamson Modern Wisdom podcast, to drive this point home, and then we'll move on to something else. He talks about how he was in a fraternity in college. Both Vinny and I, surprisingly, were in fraternities, same fraternity in college,
Same pledge class.
same pledge class. That's how we met and fell in love.
That's right.
It was day one. So he tells this story. He was the president of his fraternity, and every quarter when they had new people join the house, rush the house, become pledges, about 2 weeks into the process, the pledges would all band together and they would revolt. They would
Mutiny.
demand to meet with the president to argue terms to try and change the situation. And the way that Alex Hermosi dealt with it was beautiful. It was so powerful. So he would go and meet with all of them and he'd ask them, "Did you think this was going to be hard when you got into it?" And they would be like, "Yeah." And then he said, "This is what hard feels like." Aligning their expectation of it at the beginning to the current reality was what was so powerful to me, because up until that point, and we know this, you first meet everyone, they're super nice to you, you're going to all the parties, there's girls, there's just older guys who are cool and friendly and nice to you. And then the moment you become a pledge, everyone pretends like you don't exist and you're cleaning up after the parties. And it immediately goes from this awesome, fun thing to you are in the shit for 12 weeks or however long it is. And just realizing that you knew it was going to be hard and this is what hard feels like. That hits so hard for me.
Hmm. What I think of is just like in our final week, I'm about to I'm about to divulge every secret we have.
Don't do
No, just
it.
like no, I'm not. In like you just you take on so much at once. Like you have to like live at the house. Like he talks about that. You have to just do like so many different tasks on top of your schoolwork, on top of staying up all night, on top of like doing all this stuff. And you don't think it's gonna be like you don't think it's humanly possible to do all this stuff. And that's pretty much through the entire process. It's like I have to you can't imagine what you actually have to do, but you somehow get through it. And I think that's with like with any just difficulties, anything that is worth doing. Sometimes when you size it up and you take it, from the just like a big project, like a book, anything, it's like, how the hell am I going to do this? But once you get into the mess, once you start it, you just you find a way. You find a way to make it happen. And it is what hard feels like. And sometimes, yeah, that is good to allow yourself to be like, this is what it actually does feel like for something to be difficult. And I'm built to make it through. Like it's not gonna be easy. It's gonna hurt. Might need to cry, but somehow, some way, I will make it through.
That's such a good point around there are so many things in life that you can make it through that seem impossible at first. Like I'm thinking about college right now because we're talking about it. Even living in a triple, I lived in a space that was smaller than a prison cell for two people, and we had three people in it. I lived in there for a year and it was totally fine. If you would have, like, when I think about that now, I'm like, how the heck did I do that? And then, yeah, Hell Week in the fraternity, like, if you put that on paper, it seems impossible, but somehow you get it done. And it ain't pretty. I fell asleep
Not
during
pretty.
one of my midterms. That was not ideal. I called my parents, I think, every night, just being like, I don't know if I can do this. But you make it through. And again, there's been so many instances in my life where once I've done the thing that I had previously labeled as impossible, I come back to my life and I'm like, whoa, what else?
Yeah,
What else is possible?
seriously, it makes you appreciate uh doing the difficult things, makes you appreciate pretty much the simple things. And what's coming up is like when you're in those difficult times, really the only thing you could do is think about present. Like you gotta just take it one step at a time. And that's with like my back journey, with fraternity stuff. It's like, okay, it's if I start thinking about the end goal, if I start thinking about how this is all gonna work out, like it's just an endless downhill spiral. But what am I doing right now? And I wrote about this a couple nights ago, but that the difficult times, like the most, the biggest challenges, the darkness is often like the most beautiful aspects of life. Like there is so much, Like beauty is not just what's like clean and perfect and effortless. It's the dirty, grungy, difficult stuff in life that makes you see the beauty in everything, but also just makes you see that there is beauty in everything. Like going through something difficult, you realize that, I mean, one of my favorite things, I don't know where it comes from, but I think it's a Lumineers lyric. The opposite of love's indifference. And pretty much to be able to feel anything at all is a life much better lived than to not feel. And if you know, if you take it upon yourself to go out there and try something, if you dare to dream and you feel what it feels like for something to hurt, if you feel what it feels like for something to be hard, at least you're feeling something deeply in life. And that is why we're here. We're not here just to coast and just things to be reasonably comfortable, not that bad, but not that good. And that's just apathy. We're here to feel the highs and the lows and embrace them both.
Amen to that. I love that.
That's good.
That was it. Is there anything else we want to say?
uh, I don't think so. Yeah. Meet new people, do cool things. If you're doing that, if you're trying, it's a life well lived.
Keyword trying. You don't even have to be doing, you don't even have to be getting it right. Just get out there and try.
That's
And
right.
don't be afraid to. I have one more thing I want to say. It's one more quote, Alex Ramosi. Shame only exists in the shadows. This one really hit home because when it is hard, if you keep all that inside, if you don't tell anyone about it, if you try and carry the weight of the world, of the task you're up against by yourself, it's really heavy, really heavy. And if you bring this thing that you're shameful about, maybe it's that you haven't started yet, maybe it's you feel like you're behind, maybe it's you feel like you aren't good enough. If you bring that out into the light, it isn't that scary anymore because you start to realize that other people feel the same way too. I've started to open up about feeling like I will never do enough or be enough. And the more I talk about that with other people, the less shameful it gets for me. It
Mhm.
removes all of the scariness. It's like, yeah, it's this thing that exists. I'm not entirely sure why it's there, but man, is it a good fuel source? Like, does it allow me to get stuff done? So
Mm,
it's bringing it out of the shadows and into the light is really helpful when you are trying these new things, when you are going up against these scary challenges.
definitely. And he talks about it's when there's usually like a person or there is a single source behind that fear and that shame. Like talks about, so why are you afraid to start this thing? It's because I'm afraid to disappoint people. Like afraid to disappoint people, or is it a single person? Well, I don't want to disappoint Uncle Harry. Like he doesn't expect me to leave town and stop being a carpenter with him or something.
Potato farmer.
It's like, so you're gonna live your entire life feeling shame for leaving your hometown because Uncle Harry, makes you feel bad every time you talk about it. And once you label it, once you bring it out of the shadow and say, no, I don't think I'm gonna do that. I don't think I'm gonna live my life in fear because my mom doesn't want me to leave or something. It's You realize that there's this one small aspect of life. And if it is a person, they'll get over it. It's not your problem to live in shame because pretty much don't let the world fray your edges. You gotta shine. You gotta try.
Yep, that's it. That's it.
Don't let
I
Uncle
say we
Harry
wrap it
fray.
up.
Don't let Uncle Harry fray your edges.
Damn it, Uncle Harry. Well,
Oh man, he's probably got a mustache just like yours.
probably it's probably really creepy. Really creepy.
Yes.
That's all I have to say on the matter today. Thank you everyone for tuning in with us today. We love you guys so much. We're so grateful for your support. And if you want to support us even more, go on to whatever podcast streaming system you're listening to this on, Apple Music,
System.
Spotify. Give us a rating. Throw
Please
us a few
do.
stars, at least
Come
3.
on. Give us a little comment. Greg's mustache is creeping me out, but these guys are good.
Yes.
And check us out on the old Instagram. Greg's putting together a highlight. That'll be up any day now.
Any day now. Yeah, I'm gonna get right on that. All right, everyone.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.